The snow fell like a curtain of white silence over the empty highway. Visibility had dropped to almost nothing. The wind howled against the windows of the black SUV, and inside, Marcus Cole gripped the steering wheel tighter. He was one of the most powerful men in the country, the CEO of a billion-dollar corporation. But out here, in the middle of this blizzard, none of that mattered. Out here, he was just a man trying to survive the storm. His driver had called in sick. His flight had been canceled. And now the GPS showed nothing but red. Roads closed, accidents everywhere, chaos. Marcus had no choice but to drive himself through the winding mountain pass, the only route that wasn't completely blocked. He cursed under his breath. He had a board meeting in 12 hours. He had deals to close. He had a life that didn't allow for delays. But then he saw something. At first, he thought it was a shadow, a trick of the snow. But as his headlights cut through the white haze, the shape became clearer. A figure, small, hunched, sitting on the edge of the road like a forgotten piece of the world. Marcus slowed the car. His heart pounded in his chest. Who would be out here, in the middle of nowhere, during the worst blizzard of the decade? He pulled to the side of the road, his tires crunching against the ice. And when he stepped out of the car, the cold hit him like a wall. It stole his breath. It burned his skin. But he didn't turn back. He walked toward the figure. And that's when he saw her. A girl, 14, maybe 15 years old. Her clothes were thin, torn, completely wrong for this weather. Her dark hair was matted with snow, her lips were turning blue, and her entire body trembled like a leaf caught in a hurricane. But what made Marcus freeze, what made his heart stop for a single, terrible moment, was what he saw below her left knee. Nothing. Her leg ended in a stump, wrapped in dirty bandages. No prosthetic, no protection, just flesh exposed to the merciless cold. She sat on an old plastic bag, her only barrier against the frozen ground, and in her arms she clutched a small backpack like it was the last thing she had in the world. Because it was. Marcus dropped to his knees in front of her. He didn't care about the snow soaking through his expensive suit. He didn't care about the cold biting into his bones. All he cared about was the girl in front of him, this child who looked like she had already given up. "Hey," he said, his voice softer than he had used in years. "Hey, can you hear me?" The girl's eyes flickered open. They were brown, deep and hollow, filled with a kind of exhaustion that no child should ever carry. She looked at him, but she didn't speak. She didn't move. She just stared, as if she was waiting for him to disappear like everyone else had. "I'm going to help you," Marcus said. "Can you stand? Can you walk?" She shook her head slowly. Her voice came out as a whisper, so faint he almost missed it. "I can't. I'm too tired." Marcus didn't hesitate. He removed his coat, the same coat that cost more than most people earned in a month, and wrapped it around her shivering body. Then, with a gentleness he didn't know he still possessed, he lifted her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, like holding a ghost. He carried her to the car, opened the back door, and placed her carefully on the seat. He turned the heater to maximum. He found a blanket in the trunk, an emergency kit he had never thought he would use, and covered her with it. Then he sat beside her, watching her face, waiting for the color to return. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked at him for a long moment, and then, in a voice that cracked with every syllable, she answered, "Lily." "Lily," Marcus repeated. "That's a beautiful name. I'm Marcus, and I promise you, Lily, I'm going to get you somewhere safe. But I need you to stay awake. Can you do that for me?" She nodded, just barely. Marcus returned to the driver's seat and pulled the car back onto the road. The blizzard still raged around them, but he didn't care. He would drive through hell itself to get this girl to safety. He glanced in the rearview mirror, watching her face, watching her breathe, and a question burned in his mind. "Lily," he said carefully, "where are you from? Where's your family?" The silence that followed was heavier than the snow. "I don't have a family," she finally said. "Not anymore." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. He had heard those words before, years ago, from someone who had meant everything to him. He pushed the memory away and focused on the road. "Where were you going?" he asked. "Out there in the storm. Where were you trying to get to?" Lily's eyes drifted to the window, to the endless white void outside. "Anywhere," she whispered. "Anywhere but where I was." Marcus didn't ask anything else, not yet. Some questions needed time, some answers needed trust, and right now the only thing that mattered was getting this girl to safety. He drove for another hour through the storm. The roads were treacherous, covered in ice, barely visible. Twice the car skidded, and Marcus had to fight to keep control, but he never stopped. He never slowed down, and finally, through the haze of snow, he saw lights. A small town, a single gas station, a diner with a flickering neon sign that read, "Open." Marcus pulled into the parking lot and carried Lily inside. The warmth hit them like a wave, and for the first time, the girl's body relaxed. A waitress looked up from behind the counter, her eyes widening at the sight of them. A man in a snow-covered suit carrying a one-legged girl wrapped in a blanket. "Dear God," the waitress gasped. "What happened?" "She was out in the storm," Marcus said. "She needs food, she needs warmth, and she needs a doctor." The waitress moved quickly. She brought hot soup, bread, and a cup of tea. She found extra blankets. She made phone calls. And Marcus sat across from Lily, watching her eat like she hadn't seen food in days, because she probably hadn't. "Thank you," Lily said quietly, without looking up. "You didn't have to stop." "Yes," Marcus said, "I did." She finally met his eyes, and in that moment something passed between them, not words, not explanations, just a silent understanding that some things in life couldn't be ignored. Some people couldn't be left behind. "Most people," Lily said, "just drive past." Marcus felt a knot form in his throat. "Most people are wrong." The waitress returned with news. The storm was getting worse. The roads out of town were completely blocked. No one was going anywhere tonight. But there was a small motel next door, and she had called ahead. They had rooms available. Marcus thanked her and carried Lily to the motel. He got 2 rooms, one for her, one for him, and made sure she had everything she needed. Clean clothes from the motel's lost and found. Extra blankets, a phone in case she needed anything. "Get some rest," he told her. "We'll talk more in the morning." Lily nodded, but as he turned to leave, her voice stopped him. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Marcus paused at the door. He didn't turn around. He couldn't. Because if he looked at her, if he saw those hollow eyes again, he might say something he wasn't ready to say. "Because everyone deserves at least one person who doesn't give up on them," he finally answered. "Sleep well, Lily." He closed the door behind him, and for the first time in years, Marcus Cole, the man who controlled empires, who made decisions worth billions, who answered to no one, felt completely powerless. Because he knew that girl's story wasn't over. He knew there was pain behind those eyes that ran deeper than cold and hunger. And he knew, with a certainty that terrified him, that this night was going to change everything. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window of his motel room, watching the snow fall, listening to the wind scream against the walls. His mind wouldn't stop racing. Questions spiraled through his thoughts like the flakes outside. Who was this girl? Where did she come from? And why, of all the roads in the world, did she end up on his? He had built his entire life on logic, on control, on the belief that everything happened for a reason, and that reason could be measured, analyzed, and predicted. But this felt like something else entirely. This felt like fate. And Marcus Cole didn't believe in fate. At least, he didn't want to. When morning came, the storm had finally eased. The snow still fell, but gently now, like the sky was apologizing for its violence. Marcus showered, dressed in the same suit from the night before, and walked to Lily's room. He knocked softly. No answer. He knocked again, louder this time. "Lily, it's Marcus. Are you awake?" Still nothing. A cold fear gripped his heart. He tried the door. It was unlocked. He pushed it open. The room was empty. The bed was made. The blankets were folded. The clothes he had given her were stacked neatly on the chair, and on the nightstand there was a note. Marcus picked it up, his hands trembling. "Thank you for saving me. No one has ever done that before. But I can't stay. I'm only trouble. Please don't look for me. Lily." Marcus stared at the words. He read them again and again, as if they might change, as if they might suddenly say something different. But they didn't. They stayed exactly the same. Cold, final, desperate. He crumpled the note in his fist, and then he ran. He burst out of the motel, scanning the parking lot, the street, the sidewalk. The snow was fresh, untouched. But there, just barely visible were footprints, one deep, one shallow. The uneven gait of a girl walking on one leg. Marcus followed them. They led down the main street of the small town, past the diner, past a closed grocery store, past an old church with a broken steeple. The prints grew fainter as the snow continued to fall, erasing them step by step. But Marcus didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Because somewhere in the back of his mind a voice was screaming that if he lost this girl now, he would lose something he could never get back. He found her at the edge of town. She was sitting on a bench at an abandoned bus stop, her thin body shivering, her face pale, her eyes staring at nothing. The backpack sat beside her, clutched in her hand. She heard his footsteps and looked up. And when she saw him, something broke in her expression. A wall, a defense, a lifetime of pretending she didn't need anyone. "You were supposed to let me go," she whispered. Marcus sat down beside her. He didn't speak. He didn't try to convince her of anything. He just sat there, in the cold, in the silence, and waited. Finally, Lily spoke again. "You don't understand," she said, her voice shaking. "Everyone who tries to help me gets hurt. Everyone who gets close to me ends up regretting it. I'm cursed. I'm broken. "You're a child," Marcus interrupted gently. "A child who has been through things no child should ever have to face. And whatever happened to you, whatever made you believe you don't deserve help, is a lie. Do you understand me?" "It's a lie." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know what I've done. You don't know what happened to my family." Marcus turned to face her fully. "Then tell me." She looked away. The tears spilled down her cheeks, freezing in tiny trails against her skin. And then, in a voice that sounded like it was coming from somewhere very far away, she began to speak. "My mom died when I was 5, she said. Cancer. I barely remember her. But my dad raised me by himself. He worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whatever it took. He taught me how to read, how to ride a bike, how to fix things with my hands. He used to say I was his whole world." She paused, her breath catching. "When I was 10, there was an accident. A car accident. I was in the back seat. My dad was driving. He didn't see the truck. It came out of nowhere. And when I woke up in the hospital, they told me 2 things. They told me my dad was dead, and they told me my leg was gone." Marcus felt his heart shatter. He wanted to speak, but no words came. There were no words for this. "After that," Lily continued, "I went into the foster system. I was supposed to be placed with a family, but no one wanted me. No one wants a kid with one leg. No one wants a kid who cries every night. So I got moved around, foster home after foster home. And in some of those homes—" She stopped. Her hands were shaking. "Some of those homes weren't good," she finished. "The last one was the worst. The man there, he didn't like me. He said I was a burden. He said I cost too much money. He said if I didn't start earning my keep, he would throw me out. And when I told him I couldn't work because I was only 14, She pulled up her sleeve. Marcus saw the scars, old burns, recent bruises, a map of cruelty written on her skin. "I ran away 3 weeks ago," Lily said. "I've been walking ever since, sleeping in shelters when I could find them, eating whatever I could steal, And then the storm came, and I couldn't walk anymore. I gave up. I sat down on the side of the road, and I waited to disappear. And then you found me." She looked at him with eyes that held no hope. "But don't you see? You should have left me there. You should have driven past like everyone else, because now you're involved. Now you're going to care, and caring about me. It only leads to pain." Marcus reached out and took her hand. It was cold and small in his grip, but he held it firmly as if he could transfer his own warmth through his touch. "Lily," he said, "I'm going to tell you something. And I need you to listen, really listen, because it's the truth." She didn't pull away. She just waited. "I know what it feels like to be alone," Marcus said. "I know what it feels like to believe you're not worth saving. I know what it feels like to carry pain so heavy that you forget what it's like to stand up straight. And I also know that those feelings are liars. They tell you that you're broken beyond repair. They tell you that no one cares. They tell you that the world would be better without you. But they're wrong. They're always wrong." He took a breath. "I wasn't always a CEO, Lily. I wasn't always the man you see now. 20 years ago, I was a kid just like you. Abandoned, homeless, hungry. I lived on the streets of this very state. I ate from trash cans. I slept in alleys. And I thought, just like you, that I was cursed, that I was meant to suffer, that no one would ever see me as anything other than garbage." Lily's eyes widened. She didn't speak. "But then," Marcus continued, "someone stopped, just like I stopped for you. A woman, a stranger. She found me shivering behind a grocery store, and instead of walking past, she sat down next to me. She didn't offer me money. She didn't offer me pity. She just looked at me and said, 'Ride with me. Let's find you something warm to eat.'" His voice cracked. "That woman changed my life. She took me to a shelter. She helped me get back into school. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And years later, when I had built my company, when I had become everything I am today, I tracked her down to thank her. But I was too late. She had passed away 6 months before." Marcus looked at Lily with tears in his own eyes now. "I never got to tell her what she meant to me. I never got to repay her kindness. And every day since then, I've wondered if I would ever get the chance to do for someone else what she did for me. And then last night, in the middle of a blizzard, I found you." He squeezed her hand. "This isn't a curse, Lily. This is a gift. You survived. Against all odds, against all pain, against everything the world threw at you, you survived. And now, if you let me, I want to help you do more than survive. I want to help you live." The silence that followed was the kind of silence that changes things. It stretched between them, heavy with meaning, thick with possibility. And then Lily did something she hadn't done in years. She let herself cry, not the quiet tears of despair, not the silent sobs of a girl who had learned to suffer in silence, but real, raw, uncontrollable weeping. The kind of crying that releases pain you didn't even know you were holding. The kind that breaks you open so you can finally begin to heal. Marcus held her. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He just let her cry, let her shake, let her finally feel safe enough to be weak. When the tears finally stopped, Lily looked up at him with something new in her eyes. Not hope, not yet, but the possibility of hope. The faint, fragile beginning of believing that maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't as dark as she thought. "What happens now?" she asked. Marcus smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had worn in years. "Now," he said, "we get you somewhere safe. We get you a doctor to look at your leg. We get you food, clothes, and a warm place to sleep. And then, when you're ready, we figure out the rest together." "Together?" "Together." Lily hesitated. "But you have a life. You have a company. You have important things to do. You can't just drop everything for a girl you found on the side of the road." Marcus stood up and offered her his hand. "You're right," he said. "I do have a company. I do have responsibilities. But I also have a choice. And I'm choosing you." Lily stared at his hand. For a moment, Marcus thought she might refuse. He thought she might run again, disappear into the snow, become another ghost in the storm. But then, slowly, hesitantly, she reached out. She took his hand, and together they walked back toward town. The next few weeks were a blur of doctors, lawyers, and endless paperwork. Marcus used every resource at his disposal to ensure Lily was safe. He hired the best medical team in the country to examine her leg and create a custom prosthetic that would fit her perfectly. He brought in therapists who specialized in trauma, people who could help her process the years of pain she had endured, and he contacted his legal team to begin the long process of getting Lily out of the foster system for good. But it wasn't easy. The foster agency fought back. They claimed Marcus had no right to interfere. They said he was a stranger, a billionaire with an agenda, someone who was trying to buy a child like a piece of property. They dragged the case through courts. They questioned his motives. They painted him as the villain, and Lily almost broke under the pressure. She had panic attacks in the middle of the night. She woke up screaming, convinced she was back in that last foster home, convinced the man with the cruel hands was coming for her again. She tried to run away twice, terrified that if she stayed, she would only cause more trouble. But Marcus never gave up. Every time she ran, he found her. Every time she cried, he held her. Every time she said she wasn't worth the fight, he told her she was wrong. "You are worth every battle," he told her one night when she sat in his office, her new prosthetic leg gleaming under the light, her eyes filled with doubt. "You are worth every lawyer, every court date, every sleepless night. And if I have to fight for the rest of my life to prove that to you, I will." Lily looked at him. "Why?" she asked, the same question she had asked that first night. "Why do you care so much?" Marcus sat down across from her. He was quiet for a long moment, gathering his thoughts. "Because of her," he finally said. "The woman who saved me. Her name was Eleanor. She was a teacher. She had nothing, really. A small apartment, an old car, a salary that barely covered her bills, but she had kindness, more kindness than anyone I've ever known." He paused. "She didn't just help me that one night, Lily. She checked on me every week at the shelter. She brought me books, helped me with my homework, encouraged me to dream bigger than the streets. And when I aged out of the system at 18, she was the one who helped me get a scholarship to college. She believed in me before I believed in myself." "What happened to her?" Lily asked softly. "Cancer," Marcus said. "Just like your mother. She found out right after I graduated from business school. By the time I had made enough money to help her, to pay for the best treatments, it was already too late. She died alone in a hospital bed, with no one there to hold her hand." His voice broke. "I promised myself that day that I would never let that happen again. I would never let someone I cared about face the darkness alone. And when I found you, Lily, I saw myself. I saw Eleanor. I saw every lost child who ever needed someone to stop and say, 'You matter.'" Lily stood up. She walked over to Marcus on her new leg, still unsteady, still learning. And then she did something she had never done with anyone since her father died. She hugged him. Marcus froze. For a moment he didn't know what to do. Physical affection wasn't part of his world. He was a CEO, a man of handshakes and formal distance. But then, slowly, his arms came up. He held her. And he realized that this girl had given him something money could never buy. A second chance to be human. The court date arrived on a cold March morning. Snow still lingered on the ground, but the sky was clear, almost hopeful. Marcus and Lily sat together in the courtroom, surrounded by lawyers and social workers and people who would decide whether they could stay together. The foster agency made their case. They argued that Marcus was unfit to care for a child. They pointed to his long work hours, his lack of parenting experience, his unmarried status. They called him a risk, Fjost. But then Marcus's lawyer presented their evidence, medical records showing how much healthier Lily had become under Marcus's care, psychological evaluations showing her trauma was finally being addressed, testimonies from teachers, doctors, and therapists who had seen her transformation, and most importantly, a letter from Lily herself. The lawyer read it aloud. "My name is Lily Marie Watson. I am 15 years old. I have one leg, a lot of scars, and a history that most people don't want to hear about. For most of my life, I believed I was cursed. I believed that everyone who got close to me would suffer. I believed that I was meant to be alone. But then, on the worst night of my life, a man stopped his car in the middle of a blizzard. He didn't know me. He didn't owe me anything. But he wrapped me in his coat, carried me to safety, and told me something I had never heard before. He told me I was worth saving. Mr. Marcus Cole is not perfect. He works too much. He forgets to eat breakfast. He doesn't know how to cook anything except scrambled eggs. But he shows up. Every single day, he shows up. When I have nightmares, he sits with me until they pass. When I feel like giving up, he reminds me why I shouldn't. When the world tells me I'm nothing, he tells me I'm everything. I don't need a perfect parent. I need someone who won't leave. And Marcus Cole has never left. Not once. Please let me stay with him. He's the only family I have." The courtroom was silent. The judge looked at Lily, then at Marcus. She studied them both for a long moment. And then she made her decision. Custody was granted. Lily was officially placed under Marcus's guardianship. The foster agency's objections were overruled. And for the first time in her life, Lily had a home that no one could take away. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Marcus and Lily stood facing each other. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The tears on their faces said everything. "We did it," Lily finally whispered. Marcus smiled. "No," he said. "You did it. You were brave enough to let someone help you. That takes more courage than anything I've ever done." Lily laughed. A real laugh, bright and full and alive. It was the most beautiful sound Marcus had ever heard. "So what happens now?" she asked. Marcus thought about it. He thought about his company, his responsibilities, the life he had built. And then he thought about the girl standing in front of him, this incredible, resilient, extraordinary girl who had survived things that would have destroyed most people. "Now," he said, "we go home." But the story wasn't over. Not yet. 3 months later, as Lily was settling into her new life, going to school, making friends, learning to trust, Marcus received a phone call that changed everything. It came from a lawyer in a small town upstate, a town Marcus had never heard of, a town with a name that meant nothing to him. Until the lawyer explained. "Mr. Cole," the lawyer said, "I represent the estate of Eleanor Patterson. You may remember her. She was a teacher who passed away several years ago." Marcus's heart stopped. "Yes," he said, "I remember her." "Mrs. Patterson left behind a will," the lawyer continued, "and in that will, she left everything she owned to a single beneficiary. For years we've been trying to locate this person. We only recently succeeded." Marcus didn't understand. "Eleanor left me something, but I didn't even know—" "No, Mr. Cole," the lawyer interrupted. "She didn't leave it to you." There was a pause. "She left everything to her granddaughter, a girl named Lily Marie Watson." The world tilted. Marcus couldn't breathe. He couldn't think. He couldn't process what he was hearing. "What?" he managed. The lawyer explained. Eleanor had a daughter she had lost contact with decades ago after a family falling out. That daughter had married, had a child named Lily, and then died of cancer when Lily was 5. Eleanor had tried to find Lily after that, but the foster system had hidden her, moved her, lost her in its endless bureaucracy. Eleanor died not knowing what had happened to her granddaughter. But before she died, she had written a letter that was now in Marcus's hands. Marcus read it with tears streaming down his face. "To whoever finds Lily," it said, My granddaughter is out there somewhere. I couldn't find her, but someone must. I don't have much to leave behind, but I have love, and I pray that whoever reads this will give that love to her. Tell her that her grandmother never forgot her. Tell her that she was always, always in my heart. Tell her that she is not alone. Eleanor. Marcus lowered the letter. He looked at Lily, who was sitting across the room doing her homework, unaware of the bomb that had just exploded in his chest. Eleanor had saved him, and now, without knowing it, she had sent him to save her granddaughter. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't chance. This was something bigger, something that transcended logic and reason and everything Marcus thought he understood about the world. This was love. Love that crossed years. Love that defied death. Love that connected three broken people in a web of destiny none of them could have planned. Marcus walked over to Lily. He sat down beside her, and he told her everything. He told her about Eleanor, about the night he was saved, about the letter and the will and the impossible truth that had just been revealed. Lily listened in silence. Her face went through a dozen emotions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally something that looked like wonder. "My grandmother," she said slowly, "the woman who saved you, was my grandmother?" Marcus nodded. "She was looking for me?" She never stopped looking. Lily's eyes filled with tears. But they weren't tears of pain, not anymore. They were tears of understanding, tears of closure, tears of finally knowing that someone out there had loved her all along. "She found me," Lily whispered. "Through you, she found me." Marcus took her hand. "She did. And now you know the truth, Lily. You were never cursed. You were never meant to be alone. You were meant to find your way back to the people who loved you. It just took a little longer than it should have." Lily threw her arms around him, and as Marcus held her, he felt something shift in his soul. A weight lifted, a wound healed, a circle completed. Eleanor had saved him so that, years later, he could save her granddaughter. And now, they were a family. 5 years passed. Lily graduated high school at the top of her class. She was accepted to the best university in the country on a full scholarship. She had become an advocate for foster children, speaking at conferences, writing articles, sharing her story with the world. She had turned her pain into purpose, her scars into strength, her suffering into service. And Marcus was there for every moment. He was there when she gave her first speech to a crowd of thousands. He was there when she received her acceptance letter. He was there when she walked across the stage at graduation, her prosthetic leg gleaming, her head held high, her smile brighter than the sun. But the day that meant the most to him was much quieter. It happened on a cold December evening, exactly 5 years after the night of the blizzard. Marcus and Lily drove to the same mountain pass where they had first met. The road was clear now, the snow gentle and peaceful. They parked at the same spot where Marcus had first seen that small, shivering figure. "I can't believe it's been 5 years," Lily said, staring out the window. "Neither can I," Marcus admitted. "It feels like yesterday, and it feels like a lifetime ago." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she turned to face him. "I never told you this," she said. "But that night, when you found me, I had given up. I wasn't waiting for someone to save me. I was waiting to die. I thought no one would ever stop. I thought I would just disappear into the snow and the world would keep spinning without me." Marcus felt his heart ache. He knew this, of course. He had always known. But hearing her say it still hurt. "But then you did stop," Lily continued. "You saw me. You actually saw me. Not as a burden, not as a problem, not as a mistake. You saw me as a person worth saving. And that changed everything." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small wrapped box. "This is for you," she said. "I've been saving it for this moment." Marcus took the box with trembling hands. He opened it slowly. Inside was a pendant, a simple silver pendant with an engraving on the back. "Ride with me." Marcus looked at Lily. his eyes blurred with tears. "Those were the first words you said to me," Lily explained. "That night in the storm, when you put me in your car, you said, 'Ride with me?' And that changed my life forever." She smiled. "So now I'm saying it back. Wherever life takes me, whatever happens, I want you to ride with me. Always." Marcus couldn't speak. He couldn't find the words. So instead, he did what Eleanor had taught him all those years ago. He held her. And in that moment, on that cold and quiet road, two broken souls who had found each other in a blizzard finally understood the truth. Some storms are not meant to destroy you. Some storms are meant to lead you home. Years later, when people asked Marcus Cole about his greatest achievement, he never talked about his company. He never mentioned the billions of dollars, the awards, the magazine covers. He only smiled and pointed to the framed photo on his desk. A photo of a young woman with a prosthetic leg and a smile that could light up the world. "Her," he would say. "She's my greatest achievement, not because I saved her, but because she saved me. She reminded me what it means to be human. She taught me that the smallest act of kindness can change the course of a life. And she showed me that love, real love, doesn't ask for anything in return. It just gives." And somewhere, in whatever world exists beyond this one, a woman named Eleanor smiled, because she had always known. She had always known that one day her kindness would come full circle, that the boy she saved would save her granddaughter, and that together they would prove what she had believed all along, that no one is ever truly lost, that every broken heart can heal, and that sometimes all it takes is 3 simple words to change everything. "Ride with me." Lily stood at the podium, the lights of the auditorium blinding but warm. Thousands of faces stared up at her, foster children, social workers, politicians, and ordinary people who had come to hear her speak. She took a deep breath and began. "When I was 14 years old, I sat on the side of a road in the middle of a blizzard waiting to die. I had one leg, no family, no hope, and I believed with all my heart that I was worthless." She paused. The audience was silent. But then a stranger stopped, a man I had never met, a man who had no reason to care. He wrapped me in his coat, carried me to his car, and said 3 words that I will never forget. He said, "Ride with me?" And in that moment everything changed. Lily looked out at the crowd. "I'm here today because someone saw me, because someone chose to stop, because someone believed that a broken girl with one leg and a lifetime of pain was worth the trouble. And I'm here to tell you that every single child in the foster system, every single person who has been abandoned, forgotten, or left behind, deserves that same chance." She smiled. "You don't have to be a billionaire to change a life. You don't have to be a hero. You just have to stop. You just have to see. You just have to say, 'Ride with me,' and mean it." The applause that followed was thunderous, but Lily didn't hear it. She was looking at Marcus, who stood in the back of the auditorium, tears streaming down his face, his heart fuller than it had ever been. She had done it. She had taken her pain and turned it into power. She had taken her story and made it a beacon of hope. And she had proven, once and for all, that the storm that almost destroyed her had actually been the beginning of everything. Because that's what storms do. They break you down. They strip away the parts of you that were never really you. And then, when the clouds finally clear, they leave you standing in the light, stronger, braver, ready. The blizzard had been the worst night of Lily's life, but it had also been the first night of her real life. And now, as she stood on that stage, as she shared her story with the world, she understood the truth that Eleanor had known all along. We are not defined by our suffering. We are not limited by our losses. We are not broken beyond repair. We are simply waiting, waiting for someone to stop, waiting for someone to see, waiting for someone to say those 3 little words that can change everything. Ride with me. And when that moment comes, when someone finally chooses to reach out, miracles happen. Lives are saved. hearts are healed, and the world becomes a little bit brighter. So if you ever find yourself on a cold, dark road feeling like no one cares, remember this story. Remember Lily. Remember Marcus. Remember Eleanor. And know that somewhere out there, someone is coming. Someone who will stop. Someone who will see you. Someone who will whisper, "Ride with me," and mean it with their whole heart. You just have to hold on long enough to find them. And when you do, everything will change. Everything.